The title of my presentation is Data and Graph Types, and in this presentation I tried to summarize my experience of teaching this subject for many years. There are my suggested types of data influenced much by the types of charts in Excel, and I put them in two columns, one in black and the other in blue, because after 2016 Excel added new types of charts. The old ones were whole and each parts, simple comparison, multiple comparison, relation between variables, trends with distance and time, 3 dimensions, stock prices, and combining two charts. After 2016, I suggested 6 additional types of data, like frequencies, hierarchy, geographical location, data distribution, financial data, and process stages. The corresponding types of graphs in Excel are, before 2016, column, bar, line, XY scatter, pie, radar, stock, area, and surface. And the new types of charts are map, tree map, sunburst, waterfall, funnel, histogram, box and whisker, and combo. This matrix I made, it's an initial matrix that used the original types of graph and tried to combine it with the original types of data, where the types of data are in the first column and the types of charts are in the first 2 rows, where we have some major types like column and bar, and we have subtypes like clustered and stacked. And I cross-hatched or highlighted the intersection, according to my judgment of course, that allows people to choose the proper type of graph to suit their type of data. In addition to the matrix, I added this sunburst graph, which is a hierarchy type of graph that even explains this even more clearer. Like for multiple comparison, I can use combo chart, I can use radar, I can use XY scatter, I can use line, I can use stacked bar or clustered column and stacked column. If you count the number of possible charts in Excel, including the subtypes before and after 2016, you will find that there are almost 60 types of charts. What's noticeable here is the new types of charts that were added after 2016, they don't have subtypes, they are just one type. This is an extended chart quiz that I give to my students that includes not the old types of charts and data, but the whole thing, including the types of charts after 2016, starting from column and ending with combo and box and whisker. We put the types of data in the first row and the types of charts in the first column, and the quiz is to click the intersection of the corresponding types of charts and data. Here I am going to give a series of examples of data and chart types using the same sequence I used in the previous slides. We start with whole and its parts, and most of the extra examples I am giving that are not in literature are extracted from my experience. I do training for the faculties of Ain Shams University at 2 different levels, and in this per chart I show that the Faculty of Medicine constitutes most of the population of the university, and it's reflected here by the pie chart, where if you add the numbers of the professors or faculty staff trained, you get the whole class, where 19 trainees were there. 14 of them comes from the Faculty of Medicine, 2 from the Faculty of Girls, and 1 from the Faculty of Law, and 2 from the Faculty of Science. And of course, every time this pie chart changes according to number of trainees and the faculties and institutes from which the trainees work. Simple comparison, I use a bar chart. It's a column chart actually, not a bar chart, and it has the per capita in liters per capita for different geographical locations like South America, North America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. And I arranged the data in the table in a descending order to be able to see the rank among the values. In some cases, when you encounter data, they are not sorted. It's up to you. If you want to add a dimension that is not seen clearly, if you don't sort data, it's up to you. But in my case, I like to know the rank of the comparison. Multiple comparison means it's not only one item of comparison, there are 2 or more. Therefore, this shows the sales and profit of certain company with time. Here, when we look at the time, it is always a good advice to see if the time interval is the same or not. Here, the time interval is the same, it's only 1 year. Therefore, we can use stacked or clustered types of column charts, where every chart sends a different message. And of course, without going into the details, the chart to the right is better in showing the data than the chart to the left. Another example comes from the irrigation field. MESCA, this is a small water course used for irrigation, and for each of the 6 MESCAs we have 3 types of plants: wheat, berseem, and bean. And also we can do a similar exercise like the one we did before, but here, instead of using clustered and stacked, we switch the XY axis to send 2 different messages. To the left, we tell what are the crops irrigated in each MESCA, and the one to the right is how the 6 MESCAs irrigate the 3 types of crops. Here is another example that I use, which are student numbers. Maximum mark is 50, and we wanted to know what are the competencies of each student, so that to direct it to its proper school without looking at the final grade. Here you can see that the student in orange here is inclined towards art and reading. We can take him to the Faculty of Arts or the Faculty of Fine Arts, or the Faculty of Alson, or the Faculty of Languages. But the person or the student in gray is much more interested, and he has high marks in mathematics and science. We can take him to the Faculty of Engineering or Faculty of Science. It's called a radar chart. And relation between variables, we have only one type, which is the XY scatter. And this is a field trip where scientists or engineers measure the flow in cubic feet per second and the concentration of total nitrogen in milligram per liter, and this is what they get. What beautiful about scatter chart that Excel allows us to do curve fitting. Not only that, it allows us to choose the proper mathematical function and a measure of the goodness of fit, which is r squares here. Trends with distance or time, this is very frequent in data, and this shows the population of the earth and the year. Here I look again at the sequence of years at their equal increment. Yes, they are every 10 years, therefore I can use a line chart. This line chart shows us the progression of the population of people on earth with some predicted values from 1950 to 2050. However, this is another example that shows trends along distance, not time, but this time if you look at the distance, they are not equal increments. And the values in the three other columns shows the pH along the Rosetta branch, which is one of the Nile branches in Egypt. And if we use a line graph like we did in the previous example, we have the x-axis, equal distances between the kilometrage along the Rosetta branch, which is not, of course, correct, because if you notice that the distance between 8.1 and 10.8 is the same as the distance between 10.8 and 25.8. Therefore, this is not the proper graph, and this mistake some people do. We have to use an XY scatter, which shows the relative distances between the stages where we take our measurements. And this is the better graph. 3 dimensions is another interesting type of graph that most people don't know it exists. This is a table with some field measurements, time series of temperature in Cairo, and we have certain coefficients in the first row, maximum and minimum values of temperature for each month and the range, and we do simple calculation to try to see the difference in temperature along the 12 months of the year and the 24 hours of the day. We can get this 3D surface, very beautiful, and we can convert this 3D from the same type of graph into a contour map with a legend that shows us the increments of the contours, and you can see that the highest temperature happens at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the month of July. Stock prices. This is a very specific type of graph that can show fluctuations in stock prices. It can show fluctuations in other data like rainfall or annual temperatures. And you make sure you organize data in the right order to create the stock chart. The last sentence here shows that when we put data in Excel, we have to put them in a certain order to get minimum and maximum value and the average value here, or the closing number in the stock. And even though this is designed for stock or fluctuations of or temperature or flow, it can be used also for physical chemical parameters, like these are parameters in certain water body where we can measure the minimum, maximum and the average value, and we can use the stock chart to show the fluctuation in the parameters. Could be any other parameters. Area chart. This area chart combines, according to this definition, the line chart and the bar chart to show how one or more groups of numeric values change over the progression of a second variable, typically time. Therefore, you can find this is a company that produces mobile, TVs, batteries, chargers, and cables, and show the sales order analysis. And the area chart shows us how the sales fluctuates every along the x-axis, which is the time increment in months. Combine two charts. This is also good because it allows us to see two types of charts on the same chart. Like here we can see the line and the column chart, and to do that we may need to add another second y-axis called secondary y-axis. Data that's arranged in columns and rows can be plotted in a combo chart. Combo charts combine two or more chart types to make the data easy to understand, especially when the data is widely varied. Shown with a secondary axis, this chart is even easier to read. In this example, we use a column chart to show the number of homes sold between January and June, and then used a line chart to make it easier for readers to quickly identify the average sales price per month. Again, we can use this chart for scientific or engineering purposes by comparing the mean rainfall in millimeters and the mean temperature in degrees centigrade in the lower sub-basin of Lake Tana in Ethiopia. Again, I used column and line chart, and then I used a secondary axis to differentiate between the rain in millimeters and the temperature in degrees centigrade, especially when the values are many orders of magnitude higher. Frequencies, I put the title here in blue because this happens after 2016. It's a new chart, and I use the number of faculty members in my faculty in the different departments, and asked for a histogram. The histogram looks at the smaller value and the maximum value and divides into 5 bins, as you can see. Therefore, this is the chart you can get, where data is plotted in a histogram to show the frequencies within a distribution. Each column of the chart is called a bin. These are 5 bins here, which can be changed to further analyze your data. You can, of course, change the limits of the bins, but as you can see, I had another example, and this example shows the grades of students or the marks of the students in a certain final exam and the corresponding grade. If I use the histogram, because of the way it works, it divides the distance between the minimum and maximum into 5 bins, but it does not give me the frequency curves that I need. But Excel can do that, not through the histogram type of graph, but use an array function called frequency, and I did the exercise and I got a better curve here that showed me that the numbers in my classes follow almost a normal distribution bell-shaped graph. Hierarchy, we have 2 types of charts to handle hierarchy. One of them is called tree map, and which provides a hierarchical view of data and an easy way to compare different levels of categorization. Here is a restaurant that sells breakfast and lunch, and you can see the hierarchy of the food served in both times. We can use the same data I used for the histogram of the faculty members in the different departments in the different specialization, and this is where I get the hierarchy. Inside every specialization there are certain departments, and in each department there are a certain number of faculty members. You can see here that the civil engineering department has the most number of faculty members, and inside the civil engineering, the structures department is the department in the faculty that has the maximum number of faculty. The sunburst chart is ideal for displacing hierarchical data and can be plotted when empty blanks cells exist within the hierarchical structure. This does not work for any other chart types in Excel, but it's a peculiar it's a peculiar virtue of the sunburst graph. Each level of the hierarchy is represented by one ring or circle with the internal circle as the top of the hierarchy. As you can see here, the first column here is the inner circle of the hierarchy. Geographical locations. Excel can know the names, if they are spelled right, of course, of countries around the world. And this is the Nile Basin. It's another water example where for each Nile Basin country we have the renewable water in billion cubic meter per year. And then we can plot the map and see that DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, is the largest country that has water in the Nile Basin. It has 3,618 billion cubic meter per year. One interesting thing about Excel, it can recognize governorates in Egypt. If you use this special table, and this table shows the existing desalination projects Egypt is embarking on, a very promising plan to increase the amount of desalinated water, and you can notice that these desalination plans occur only on coastal governorates. Like if you go by your mouse, you can see that we have Marsa Matruh, we have North Sinai, South Sinai, Ismailia, and Red Sea. Data distribution is for those interested in statistics. We have a box and whisker that graph, and this type is used to show the shape of the distribution, its central value, as you can see, and its variability. In a box and whisker plot, the ends of the box are the upper and lower quartiles. Any point outside those lines or whiskers is considered an outlier. We use this chart type when there are multiple data sets which relate to each other in some way. Again, I used another example from the Nile Basin, comparing the Eastern Nile countries, Egypt, Sudan, and Ethiopia, in terms of average monthly temperature. And we can see here that Ethiopia has the best weather because the fluctuation of temperature is very small, between 15 and 17 and a half, followed by Sudan, and Egypt is the one that has a lot of hot and temperatures, like it goes up to 25. But even though the range in Sudan is smaller than the range in Egypt, but of course because of the position of the Sudan close to the equator, it has higher temperature. And the reason Ethiopia is lower temperature is not of the geographical location as much as of the altitude, because they have higher elevation. They are more than 3,000 meters above sea level. Financial data. This is a very specific type of graph called waterfall. Shows a running total of your financial data as values are added or subtracted, shown differentiated by color, as you can see. And it's useful for understanding how an initial value is affected by a series of positive and negative values. The columns are color coded, so you can quickly tell positive from negative numbers. Process stages. It's called funnel graph, and show values across multiple chases in a process. In this process is a sales pipeline. It starts by prospects and it ends by closed sales, and you can see how numbers are decreased gradually, allowing the bars to resemble a funnel. Again, I used Egyptian data to show how the Ministry of Electricity and Energy is charging Egyptians for their use of electricity in kilowatt hour, and the prices. It's a very interesting example, and we can do the same exercise for the price of municipal water. My concluding remarks that in this presentation I tried to classify types of data to suit the available types of charts in Excel. For some types of charts, I added more examples to explain the use of charts, and in some cases, use the chart to plot other types of information as, say, for example, the stock diagram. As example of choosing charts for engineering applications, we use the stock chart to show limits of chemical parameters. We use the map chart to show Egypt governorates, and we use the funnel chart to show pricing of electricity in Egypt.